Welcome. Today is Tuesday, July 6th, and welcome to Commissioner in a Car. As you can see, though, I'm not in my car today. And why am I not in my car? Well, I'm actually on vacation, and I'm home today. And my wife has the car because she's out doing some other things. So I thought it would be. I'm back in my office like I did these during when we were at home earlier this year, the brief time we were actually able to work from home. Here I am. I just wanted to, give you all a brief commissioner on the car while I'm on vacation, just to kind of finally put in perspective the June 2021 primary. Um, so this won't be very long, but there are some details of the June 2021 primary that maybe you don't know. While I did post a wonky Wednesday last week that went into the numbers because we were able to certify our primary on July 1st. The primary is certified and in the books. And I was able to go into some of those numbers on Friday. And if you don't know where that is, go to my Tumblr blog, and you can see the June 2021 primary. It's my last blog post there, or on any of my social feeds as well. So here I am. But I did want to talk about a few things that happened in the June primary that I was very proud of with the County Board of Elections. We have a goal of each election trying to do something different and continue to lean on technology and voter access in a way that will make it better for the voters and also better for the Board of Elections to be able to serve the voters. And over the last several years, each election we've done something different, whether because of COVID or because of the massive changes that happened in 2019. In fact, this is my first vacation since December of 2018 because of all the changes that have happened with elections and the pandemic that set in last year. And so what was that? Well, in 2019, in January of 2019, a lot of reforms were enacted in New York that weren't there before. Early voting was one of them, and also same-day registration. I'm not same-day registration. Early voting and portable registration, where you can move your registration from county to county. Those were big changes. But the biggest change that started right away was the new political calendar. This in June of 2000, moving the primary from September to June, doing it in the same calendar year they passed the legislation in 2019. That was a big change. It changed everything that we did as a Board of Elections. All of a sudden, the petition period moved from the summer to February, we had to get ready for an election in June as opposed to in September. Although we've been doing those June elections for several years, because one of the reasons we were changing in New York was to combine the congressional primaries as well as the local ones. We were the only state in the nation that had separate primaries like that. So as soon as that legislation was passed, it was all hands on deck to get ready for that June 2019 primary. However, then after the June 2019 primary, other legislation that was passed enacting electronic poll books and early voting had to get ready for the November 2019 general election. We didn't have early voting in the June 2019 primary. They waited until the November election. Thank God, enough things were changing, but we had to get electronic poll books on board, on-demand ballot printers on board. These are all things that we've never done before in New York, and we had to do it and get ready for the early voting. So that took place in the November 2019 election. Right after the November 2019 election, we had to get ready for the presidential primary that was supposed to happen in April of 2020. In fact, petitions were starting in early December for that in 2019, and our boards of elections weren't able to really take a lot of time off, and I didn't take any time off. I had, we just got done with this very long, election year, but we had to be ready for the presidential primary, so we were in full modes for that because it looked like we were going to have contested primaries on both sides, definitely on the Democratic side at that point. So we were ready to do that. And then, of course, in March of 2020, the pandemic hit and changed all of our lives. We had to, the presidential primary was canceled in 2020, moved to June of 2020, and then canceled again, and then re-put on by the courts. We were then, and during all of this, we were trying to figure out how to have an election with a pandemic going on, where New York was mostly an in-person voting state. Whether it was early or on election day, we just didn't have the capacity or the background for absentee ballot voting in the way that we needed to for the pandemic. So the governor signed a lot of different executive orders, and we had to mail out applications, postage paid applications with postage paid return envelopes and absentee ballots for every voter that wanted it in the June 2020 primary. And 60% of the voters voted by mail during that primary in the height of the pandemic. So, that was a whole change that we had to do for the June 2020 primary. And then, of course, the November 2020 election was the biggest, highest voter turnout, voter registration, participation in early voting and absentee voting, and then a protracted absentee voting count after the election because of the challenges that came from outside groups with 60,000 absentee ballots and that determined almost every election in Onondaga County. And in the middle of that, we had a COVID outbreak at the Board of Elections. And so that put a 2-week damper on early voting, on absentee voting counts. So that extended our certification into December. And though we had until the June primary to get ready, and some people took some time off, I did not, because we were still kind of reeling from that election. We moved some staff to working at home for a few months, and then we were back in the office in March of 2020 during the petition time, when petitions were going out for the June 2021 primary. So I went over that because I wanted to let you know how hard the board's election staff have been working the last 2 years with all these changes. And the only way we've been able to be as successful as we are in Onondaga County is because we always try to add little things each election to make it easier for us to run the elections, leaning on technology, and also more transparent for the voters. This election is no different. We could have rested on our laurels on the June 2021 primary, but there were some things that we wanted to put in place that worked very well, and for the June 2021 primary. And they may be things that you don't see because it did work well. But I wanted to give a shout out to the staff and what they did and how much work they put into this election, because it went off basically without a hitch. Always have some mistake that is made by the inspector or a voter record that should have been updated that didn't get updated. But those are individual cases as opposed to massive issues. And so there are some things we put in place in this election that I'm very happy about. So I'm going to let you know about a few of them right now. The first one is our poll print program. You may, when you go to early vote, you notice that you have an on-demand ballot printer there that prints up your ballot uh, to whatever code you are. We need those for early voting. Well, what we've tried to do here in Onondaga County is to try to extend that poll print program to election day as well. And we've been very successful. We put out our first poll prints in the field in the June primary of 2020 on election day and expanded it in the general election. And this election in June of 2021, we had the most poll prints out in the field on election day as opposed to just early voting. We have 38 poll prints. That means 38 of our biggest polling sites had on-demand print available. Now, you still have to go to your correct polling site, but there's other benefits to that. The main benefit is saving of costs for the boards of elections. In a low turnout primary, like the June primary is going to be, or any primary is, it's we have to print up a lot of ballots because we don't know it's going to be a low turnout. We have to make a guess, and sometimes we have to overguess because we can't print on that day or print a lot on that day. Our capacity is down running the election. So by putting 38 poll prints in our largest sites across the county on election day, we were able to print enough ballots to exactly match the voters that came, saving us hundreds of thousands of dollars on ballot printing this election of wasted ballots. Now, we always have to print up a little ballots. I think we printed up 50 ballots at each polling site just in case we had a problem with the printers. But because this was a small election, and we own 38, actually, I think we own 40 poll print machines at the Board of Elections, but we distributed 38 for this election. This was the most we've ever distributed, and because there was only about 60 polling places open on election day, it meant that about 2/3 of the voters in Onondaga County had these poll prints in their things, and they went off really, really well. We got extra training for our inspectors, training that I personally, conducted to make sure they were able to set up those poll prints, and they were set up very well, and they worked very well. So that was one of the major things that we did this election. Another thing that we did is on the back end. You may have seen a couple articles I shared with Onondaga County was getting some shout outs statewide for our candidate portal that allows the candidates to get data on a daily basis without having to pay for it, without having to have any questions of adequacy or anything like that. That data is readily available to the campaigns. But one of the things that we did to avoid and be able to count the absentees in a quick manner without as many objections is we made sure that that this year after the election we scanned in the fronts and backs of the absentee ballot envelopes with a scanner we borrowed from our registration vendor, NTS. This is the first time we've been able to do this in a way that was comprehensive and not, last year we were ordered by the court to do this. After the election, we weren't ready to do it. We didn't have a scanner on hand. We had to basically make physical copies and make arrangements for people to come in and view the envelopes with the 60,000 absentees we had. In this June primary, we only had about 850 absentees, but those absentees were scanned in and available to the campaigns 2 days after the general election. Now, I'm sorry, 2 days after the primary, which really reduced on all of the objections. I think we only had one objection during the absentee ballot counting process because the campaigns could see and ask questions about the outsides of the envelopes beforehand and usually have their fears assuaged and they allowed the vote to count. And I think the objection that we had during the absentee ballot count was not on the envelope but on the ballot when we said a ballot didn't count and the campaign saw a mark that they felt it should have counted and they held that ballot until the end of the process, but then eventually let it go. So putting this, component into place is going to help us in future elections. Obviously, it's going to help us in the general when we have even more absentee ballots. But next year, when we're counting absentee ballots before election day, having these ballots be able to be tracked and be able, we're going to have to count these and open them within 4 days of receiving them. And so the campaigns are going to have to be able to get that data in a way to see if they want to come in and make objections. Otherwise, they have to have a staffer here every day for those 45 days that we're opening up absentees before an election, so the absentees count on election day. So getting this system in place, and then now we hope to perfect it in the general election, is going to help us in 2022 when we start opening these absentees before election day. Other things that we did a little bit differently is that we had a different staffing plan for our inspectors. We were able to put out a staffing plan that took advantage of the technology that we had, but also put less inspectors in the field because we knew it was going to be a low turnout, but also be able to handle the rush hours that happened. So the alternative staffing plan for the primary allowed us to actually field less inspectors than we normally would field in a primary. And because we used all this technology and other, and tracked the early votes and absentee votes, knew how many people were going to come in, we were able to have an alternative staffing plan at the primary locations on election day. This saved the county a couple $1,000s, maybe more, in inspector costs for the primary election for a primary this size. And also because we used poll prints, we were able for the first time ever in Onondaga County, when we certified our results, have election district level results. So why was this the first time ever? And what does that mean? Well, so when primaries happened in the past, because you have Democrat and Republican ballots, because you have multiple election districts in a polling place, you could have up to 8 to 10 different ballot styles in a polling place if you did primary level results or election level results. And without the poll prints that were there, in some polling places, 12 to 15 different ballot styles. Without the poll prints in the polling places, you really run the risk of inspectors giving out the wrong ballot style when a voter signs into the ballot when you have that many different physical books for polling places. So Onondaga County has always tried, we've always had what we call consolidated polling places on election day for primaries, which meant that you would have one ballot style and you would have one election district in the place. Even if there were 3 or 4 different election districts, you would combine them together and have one ballot style for Democrats, one ballot style for Republicans, making it easier for the voters and easier for the inspectors, and not giving out ballots that may, that they were not supposed to get and to the voter. By having electronic poll books on election day, by having poll prints there as well, we were able to finally give out election district level results for our poll prints, for election night. So after we certified, because we didn't have to have different books of elections because our poll print would print up the ballot on demand, and thus the voters were not confused. The machines, when they scanned in the ballot, would assign that vote not just to that polling place, as was done in years in the past, but the election district that that voter lived. And so we were able to provide election district level results for the first time ever. You saw that on election night. We didn't have those combined EDs on our maps, and you saw that in our certification. And it's the first time ever we've been able to do that, and we hope to continue to do that for primaries in the future. We do it for general elections, but we've never done it for the primaries before. So that's a big step forward for campaigns who want to find out where they did well, at what level they did well, and have a truer sense of what the election did. So that is what we what we have done. Those are the four main things that we did differently. Obviously, we always have some things that we do differently that you won't ever see, like in terms of how we process paperwork inside the office, that kind of stuff. But the four main things that really benefited the voters and benefited the campaigns were the expanded use of poll prints on election day, on primary day, as opposed to just on early voting. The election inspector plan that allowed us to put fewer inspectors in the field to save dollars for Onondaga County and have a more efficient and less waits at the polling places. Also, I mentioned this when I was talking about it, but it also helped us if an inspector called out. We had multiple levels of people that were ready to go in and take their place as well. We had the absentee ballot scans and images that were available to campaigns shortly after Election Day, which reduced the number of objections and had a quicker count for us. We were able to get through that absentee ballot within about 1,000 ballots within 6 hours, and have those results ready to go on and winners. And we knew who the winners were very shortly, as opposed to the 2 weeks it took last year with 60,000 ballots. But still, we were able to do that without bringing any extra staff in because there weren't as many objections. And then finally, the precinct election district level results for our certified and election night results, because of the leaning on the poll prints and the inspector plan that we did earlier, also allowed us to do this. And we really hope that these four things are things that are going to go into the future as well. So they worked out really well. I don't really see any questions in the chat. So I'm going to end this commissioner in the car or commissioner in my office and get this up on the various social feeds. I am off this week. I'm not in the office, but I am planning on dropping a wonky Wednesday tomorrow with the County Legislative District 1. And that's going to be starting my 17-week look at each individual county legislative districts. I've already done the 19 towns in the city of Syracuse, and so we're gonna really look at these county ledge districts and how they're changing and what the races are, and the movement to flip the ledge, which is the driving movement of this election. It's probably going to have the most activity around, with the 17 different candidates for the Republicans and Democrats in each district. Although I think the Republicans are contesting in 3 districts. So there's 14 Republicans, 17 Democrats vying for control of the legislature. So that my Wonky Wednesday series starts there. I have a Zoom with Zarni with Khaled Bay that dropped last Sunday on July 4th. He's the winner of the Democratic mayoral nomination for mayor in the city of Syracuse, and will be taking on Ben Walsh and Janet Berman in the mayor's race this November. So we had a great interview, so check that out. It's on my feeds. And this Friday, I'm going to do a Zoom with Zarni with the Salina Town Democrats. The candidates running for office in the town of Salina. That should drop sometime on Friday. Their quest to flip top in the Salina There's a full field of candidates out in Salina for the first time in a very long time. And I think you'll find them very interesting. And hopefully, Salina, which has a Democratic plurality, they can win some of those races as well. And then, and you remember my Zoom Exarnies are going to be dropping on Fridays for the rest of the summer until after Labor Day. And then after Labor Day, I'm going to go back to a two Zoom with Zarni a week because we're going to be focusing on the county led candidates after Labor Day to get all of them in before Election Day. But between now and Labor Day, um, I'm going to be doing the Zoom Zarnies with other candidates from the towns, as many as possible. We'll know all of those races by July 22nd when it's the last day to have caucuses. So we'll know where all the races are throughout the county. And I plan on doing a little Sunday seminar preview of the general election so you can get a bird's eye view of all the races going on in Onondaga County for the November election. So that's all I got going on for you. I'm going to get back out in my yard and do some yard work and spend some time with my family this week. But I'll be back in the office next week if you need me. Or, of course, if you ever need anything, drop a message on my Facebook page or on this video, and I'll try to answer it later on. Thank you very much, and enjoy your holiday week.